guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do another Turner syndrome video. Wanted to talk about something that I've only lightly touched on, and that is the dynamic of telling your spouse or the person that will end up possibly being your spouse in a dating relationship, because I would suggest telling them before you are actually married. So I thought I would share Andrew's reaction when I told him and kind of talk about that dynamic, because I know for me that was super nerve-wracking. When I first kind of became aware that I had Turner syndrome, I remember thinking, how am I going to tell him, thinking in the future, not knowing it was Andrew. How am I going to tell the guy I marry, one, that I don't know if I can have kids, and two, that I have Turner syndrome? That is this not very well known, complicated to try to understand genetic disorder. And I have had one or two questions about what that was like and what his reaction was before. So I thought I would talk about that this week and just the whole dynamic. So I told Andrew while we were still dating, and I was very nervous too. I was very scared of what his reaction was gonna be, not because he had come off as a guy that would not react well or would not be nice about it or would think of me differently because of it, but just because I had never told a male person before. Literally the only guys I had ever told or ever talked to about it were my brothers and my dad. That was it. Other than that, I had only ever talked to my girlfriends about that, and those are the only people I had told. So I had never talked to a guy about it that was not a family member somehow related to me. And even with them, I only talked about it so often. Most of the time I talked about it with my girlfriends and my mom and my aunt. That was it. That was who I was used to talking to about it. So going into dating Andrew and having to figure out when to tell him and how to tell him was a whole new dynamic to me that I had been nervous about since I found out I had it, because I knew my goal in life was to get married and have kids and have a family. And career was kind of a separate goal from that. So I knew no matter what else I was doing, I wanted that. And so it was always heavily on my mind, the fact that I would need to tell them. Whoever that person or guy ended up being, I would need to tell him, and I would have to deal with or respond to however he reacted. We were dating about 3 months when I told Andrew. 2.5, 3 months. And I ended up actually telling him over Skype. We had our whole dating relationship far apart, so we Skyped a ton. So I ended up telling him over Skype, and the way I started it was, okay, I want to explain a little more than I did before, because I knew I had the neck scars that I had just kind of given my surface spiel of, oh, I had neck surgery because there was some loose skin. Didn't delve into it any deeper than that. So all of those little surface explanations I had given, I basically started it by saying, I want to finish explaining that, and I want to fully explain that. So I had to tell him, one, I have a genetic disorder called Turner syndrome. And he said, okay, what's that? Because he had never heard of it before, as most people have not. I gave the whole definition of the X chromosomes and all of that, and he said, okay. And he said, what's different about you then, though? Because you can't look at me and really tell. And I said, well, that's why I'm short. He said, okay. And he kind of chuckled. And I said, but it also means that I don't know if I can have kids. And I said, there's no guarantee of what will happen, but I don't know, because one of the symptoms is infertility. And I said, I don't know what my story is with that yet. Is it okay? And that was a little more the moment he thought more about it, because we had already been lengthily talking about how we both knew we wanted kids at some point. He kind of just took the attitude of, we'll figure that out when we get there, and God is a big God. God is a very big God, and he is in control of all of this. He said if he has a different way, if we were to get married to give us kids, then we can embrace and look into that. And if he wants to just fix it and have something happen, that would be awesome too, and it would be a really great testimony. So he was possibly the best scenario I could have ever hoped for. He was amazing about it. He's been super supportive about everything the entire way, and he has not once ever made me feel lesser than because of it. This brought about 3 kind of tips or suggestions for how you might go about having that conversation with that person. It obviously can be situational with what circumstance is going to come up that you're able to talk about it with them. But starting with, hey, I have this condition, and letting them ask any questions they have, letting them kind of figure that out, and then go into more detail slowly maybe. I know it has been a process of him learning more about it, him learning what it actually looks like for me, and it's a process. It took him processing what I was telling him, and I tried really hard not to overload him with information. The main points I wanted to get to him first was the genetic condition and infertility. That was mostly what I was trying to get to him, and then I kind of left it alone and let him process. Since we got married, he's definitely learned more. So that would be my first tip, is to kind of do it slowly, do it as a process, and try not to overwhelm them. The second would be helping them understand what it makes different for you. So I had to help him understand that it meant I took a pill every day. It meant I didn't know if I could have kids. It meant lots of doctor's appointments pretty regularly. The third tip I would give, or suggestion, would be allowing him to process it first before you were to take it to his family. Giving that family dynamic to it can be something that you probably want both of you to be pretty well on the same page with everything, have him understand it well enough that nothing you'd immediately tell his family would be a shock to him, and that would be a surprise. It might catch him off guard, but you could slowly wean his family, slowly introduce his family to it too. Because of how little known Turner syndrome is, it is most likely going to be a new concept. Might not be in every case, but for the most part it is going to be a new concept, and they're going to have a lot of questions too, and being able to be open with them about it and let them ask questions, slowly introduce them to it, can be a really great way of doing that. The other dynamics of this is your mindset when telling them and their mindset when you tell them. The timing can be super important for this because it will speak to where you are in your relationship. If you were not even at a point in your relationship that you have talked about having kids, then it's probably best to hold off a little more and see where things go. Not that they might not be a person you might want to talk about it with anyways, but that you don't want to freak them out with it if you guys aren't even to that point of talking about that kind of thing in the future. You are more than likely going to be pretty nervous. I know I was. And I would say in that moment, remind yourself that they love you, they care about you, or they wouldn't be with you in the first place. So kind of having that to hold on to and know that you can trust them with this information, and making sure you do feel that way, that you can trust them with it, reminding yourself of that is important. And for them, make sure you're not overwhelming them. Make sure they're in a mindset at that point to handle new information like that, because if they are not, it will overwhelm them just that much more, and you want them to be in a moment they can properly process it, consider it, hear it, and actually be able to handle it. So I think that is all for this video. I hope this was helpful in some way. I hope this encouraged you. And if you are in a position where you are with somebody that you have to tell, I wish you luck. And I want to remind you that they would not be with you if they didn't love who you were, no matter who Turner syndrome makes you or how Turner syndrome makes you to be. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up and share it with everybody. If you are not already subscribed, click the screen and subscribe, and then you can see when the next video comes out. I do videos every single day, and I usually do a Turner syndrome video on Thursdays. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!